Hello, I'm Charles Coves, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Coves Show, whether you're watching on Rumble, on YouTube, or listening via one of the many podcasting platforms. Isn't it amazing how many ways you can collect information from one source? This is the place for you to be inspired by your passion, unraveled by your ever-increasing self-awareness about who you are and who you want to become. Passion is a source of unlimited energy from your soul, your spirit, your heart that enables you to produce extraordinary results. Extraordinary, because ordinary is unpassionate people, dispassionate people. One of the great quotes that I've seen in life, that I've seen evidence of throughout my life, is that greatness can only be achieved through passion. So I want you to be great. I want you to have a great life. So today, when I'm recording this, it's the 7th of September, 2025, and it's a special day because it's my first grandchild's birthday. Mila turns 10 today. She was my first grandchild. I have 3 granddaughters, 1 grandson. And it's amazing that these 4, over the course of 365 days of a year, these 4 children, without any planning on anyone's part, as best I know, they were all born within 68 days. So Mila was born on 7 November, Pippa on the 7th of September, Pippa on the 6th of November, then Maisie, who turned 3 last week on the 30th of August. And then Finn, who is my first grandson, he was born last year on the 18th of October. So from the 30th of August to the 6th of November, all 4 grandchildren are born. I think that's remarkable. It also happens today to be Father's Day. So, of course, poor father will have no attention because it's Mila's birthday, which is a far bigger deal, as you all know. And then on Tuesday, on the 9th of September, it's my father's birthday. It would have been his birthday. He was born in 1923, so 102 years ago on the 9th of September. And a lot of what I do is very much influenced by his and my mother's journey as Hungarians, as refugees from Hungary after World War II, refugees to get away from the Russian influence over Hungary, to get away from communism, to come to Australia for freedom. That's why I'm so passionate about freedom. And it underlines all of this work that I do, that I've done all my life. You know, in the biographical notes that there's a link to on this show, you will see that I'm a fighter for freedom in 5 different ways: in you being free to pursue your passion, in you being free through good health, in you being free through industrial hemp. So industrial hemp helps farmers to be more successful, and successful family farms are an important defense against government overreach. So freedom through comedy, because comedy is the tip of the spear of free speech. And if you want to attack someone's freedom, you start by attacking their freedom to express their views, as I do here. And there's many attacks on free speech happening. And then lastly, as a lawyer, as a legal strategist, what lawyers do is to protect your freedom. So my parents' journey, obviously, as your parents, they have an influence on your life, and mine have had a wonderful influence that then drive me even today to do what I'm doing. So I hope my behavior influences my children and my grandchildren. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. Now, I know it's in Australian terms. I don't know what it is. I don't keep a chart of when they celebrate Father's Day, but fathers get a bit of a hammering these days, and that's a whole different topic. But I urge you, if you're a father, to have a clear philosophy in terms of how you want your parenting to be. I've had a clear philosophy. My parents had a clear philosophy, particularly my dad. So you can be an unconscious parent, or you can be a conscious, self-aware, totally awake, not woke, a totally awake parent that says, what do children need to become what they're capable of becoming? What is our role as a parent? I have done a lot of thinking about that, and I'm happy to share with you that my 5 children seem to be pretty successful human beings. Therefore, on the famous Latin maxim of res ipsa loquitur, the facts speak for themselves. I must be an okay father. All right, so let's get into today's topic of hidden agendas of our politicians, of big business, of leaders in our society. And I want to give you some perspectives on what those hidden agendas might be so that you can unravel these mysteries so that you're able to make better decisions in your life on a day-by-day basis so that it reduces your confusion about what might be happening. Or if someone's trying to impose a hidden agenda on you in the name of something else. So I've got 9 for you. I'm going to whiz through these pretty quickly because I don't want this show to be too long, but they are designed to provoke your thinking about what you think these issues are about. So the first one is the work of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services in the USA. And he is being hammered for requiring proof by pharmaceutical companies of the safety and efficacy of anything that's jabbed into children, of anything that's jabbed into you, and dismantling the CDC. And here's the one idea. He says, I am horrified that 76% of Americans have got a chronic disease. 76%. That's not children. That's not a 76% increase. That is 76 out of every 100 Americans has got a chronic disease. He said something's wrong. And then the Democrat politicians attack him, that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and the federal department, the FDA, the Federal Drug Authority, whatever it is in America, that the Democrats are pretending that these institutions are doing a good job. Well, Americans are amongst the richest and unhealthiest people on the planet. And you start to go, wow, what's being injected into them from birth? And since 1986, when indemnity has been given to pharmaceutical companies under the Reagan administration, pharmaceutical companies can do whatever they like, almost. And so RFK Jr. is dismantling that, and he's being mercilessly attacked. So why? What's wrong with his desire to improve health for Americans? Well, what's the hidden agenda? Well, the answer is there are large numbers of American politicians receiving money from pharmaceutical companies because there's big money in mandating injections for the population. And the wonderful news is that Florida, with Governor Ron DeSantis, has announced that it's abolishing all mandates of all descriptions. In Australia, we have a mandate that says no jab, no pay. If you don't inject your children, you don't get government benefits. It's an outrage. It is a total breach of your bodily autonomy. So the hidden agenda is the profits of Big Pharma. And the other issue is, it's my belief that Big Pharma full well know the damage and harm that's caused to people, and these injections are creating lifetime customers. And the case of America's sad, shocking state of health is evidence of that. So the hidden agenda is not very hidden, but it's sold as safety. We're protecting, and the Democrats come out and attack RFK and saying, you are attacking the safety of children when the exact opposite is the case. Second hidden agenda, the Russia-Ukraine war that started in February 2022, 3.5 years ago. Literally almost precisely 3.5 years ago. What's the hidden agenda? Well, one hidden agenda that you can see me exercising. Here is my coffee. So what's the hidden agenda with coffee? Do I love it, or is there some hidden agenda? No, I love it. And I used to say I'm not addicted to it. Well, am I addicted, or do I just love it? I only have 4 or 5 cups a day. I don't think that's too much of an addiction, but it's wonderful stuff. Now, coming back to the hidden agenda of the Russia-Ukraine war, that is told to most people in the West that this is an unprovoked war by Russia. That's the agenda, an unprovoked war, a territorial grab. Well, there are hidden agendas related to the Biden administration, its activities between 2020 and 2024. There is the promises made by NATO to Russia that Ukraine would never be part of NATO. There is child trafficking reports centered in Ukraine. There are hidden laboratories in the Ukraine. There is President Zelensky, who has declared martial law in the country, and there's no free elections. And the behaviour of Zelensky, if you have to look at that, he's shone by the mainstream media as some wonderful hero, and the money that's that's being allegedly poured into Ukraine to help Ukraine. Well, you think about that funding. Where is that funding actually going? It's going to weapons manufacturers. There are lots of hidden agendas in this Russia-Ukraine war. And if you just think it's an unprovoked war by Russia to Ukraine, you've bought the mainstream agenda. The third topic is the censorship of those under 16 in Australia on access to the internet. Now, this is sold as a safety protecting our children. Now, I've said to you before that there is there are millions of children trafficked each year on our planet for sex and slavery. And the politicians in Australia pretend to be concerned about children. And we're concerned about children, children who can apparently make their decisions on transgender when they're 8 and 9 and 10 years of age, but they can't be shown anything questionable when they're under 16, and they have to show their ID. Well, guess what's going to happen? This, in the name of protecting kids, every single person in Australia won't have access to the internet without showing their identity, because you need a digital identity to prove that you aren't under 16. The hidden agenda here is a digital ID agenda to track and monitor everything that you are doing. And this is part of a global push for digital ID to then gain control over you and monitoring of you, censorship of you, and then a social contract of you, which happens in China under the Chinese Communist Party regime, where if you don't do what the government wants you to do, your credit can be shut down, your travel ability can be shut down. It ties into the whole 15-minute city game of control, all in the name of protecting the environment. Lots of hidden agendas there. Number 4 hidden agenda. The Albanese government in Australia, a very strong left-wing government, and then the visit by former premiers Daniel Andrews of Victoria, the worst premier in this state in its entire history since it was founded in 1851, and Bob Carr, a former New South Wales premier, going to the show of military strength and celebration by Xi Jinping, together with Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un from North Korea. These dictators are in there, and here's our ex-politicians, allegedly as private citizens, and this cozying up of the Albanese government with China, with Albanese not yet having met with President Trump, Australia's long-term ally. What's the agenda? What's the hidden agenda? Well, I've mentioned it to you before. I say it again. Anthony Albanese is a confirmed communist. Here is the book on which I make that claim by Trevor Loudon. Wonderful book, comrade. 40 years of hard evidence that all of Anthony Albanese's, our Prime Minister's mentors, are long-term members of the Communist Party in Australia, of this whole push for communism. And what's communism really about? Communism is about the globalist agenda for one world government to have all the powers controlling your behaviour. Get rid of national borders. Let's all be one big happy family. And Albanese, Daniel Andrews, Bob Carr, there are hidden agendas aplenty, all related to the increasing influence of China over Australia and the dismantling of Australia's links to the USA. The fifth hidden agenda. Freedom marches were happening around Australia last Sunday, 31st of August. Julie went on one of those freedom marches in Melbourne. They were attacked as racist and conspiratorial and hard, and neo-Nazis dare to go on these freedom marches. You see, nothing bad is said about people demonstrating and blocking traffic every week in Melbourne and Sydney in favour of Palestinians, of Hamas, a terrorist organisation. Nothing bad about that. But normal Australians who want Australia to stay as it is, not turning into some totalitarian communist country, okay, they are criticised as being racist. Think about that. That's this desire of people to stand up for their rights is then attacked by the mainstream media, driven by the politicians, and you start to go, well, what's the agenda of the mainstream media? Why aren't they properly covering this? Why aren't they properly covering that 95% of the people who are marching are genuinely concerned about the future of their country? Why not, huh? What's the hidden agenda here? Don't you dare question the narrative is the agenda. Don't you dare do something that we don't approve, which clearly shows that the Albanese government entirely approves, as we know from its desire to recognise Palestine as a state, which is totally contrary to international law. That's the game that's going on here. That's the hidden agenda. And then you say, to what end? There's money, there's power, there's influence driving all of these decisions that are being made, represented by mainstream media stories that influence people's thinking. I urge all of you to go on these freedom marches to push back against politicians and what they're doing to the country, certainly to Australia, and to the country in which you live. Just three more. I'll be a bit quicker on these. Getting the vote at 16 years of age, not 18 years of age. What do you think the hidden agenda there is? Correct. They want kids. You see, kids, traditionally, the data shows clearly, kids love it when government hands out money. When government solves their problem, government gives them free education, albeit now with a big debt. Giving the vote to men and women, boys and girls at 16 is all about locking in left-wing, big government support. That's the hidden agenda. Nothing to do with the value of thinking of 16-year-olds. Number 7, the hidden agenda around the Hamas, the support for Hamas, the support for kidnappers, the support for holding hostages, the stories of Palestine, of Israel, all of those complexities for many years. There are so many narratives happening here that to think that this is the Jews controlling the world, taking over the world, is just remarkable to me, and that I think shows an inability to understand complexity. Number 8. The net zero push in Australia and around the world. What's the hidden agenda here? Well, have a look at all the government subsidies that go to big companies who are benefiting from all of the activities on net zero in the name of saving the planet. Total bullshit. There is no climate emergency. The climate changes. It changes throughout history. It is not anthropogenic. It is not caused by humans. It is not caused by CO2, but there's all sorts of hidden agendas of people getting benefits from the net zero push, and politicians are influenced by the money that flows. You think about this. All of the hidden agreements that happen with politicians who then get out of politics like Daniel Andrews and then go on gravy train visits to China, to the deals that they've done while in power, for which they get rewarded when they get out of politics. And they expect to be honoured as former politicians. I've done a previous show on that, of the dangers of the absolute strategy that we have to use as voters, which is to not honour badly behaving ex-politicians. So the net zero scam is all about rent seekers, is all about boondoggles, is all about big business and government colluding to get large amounts of money from normal taxpayers, all in the name of saving taxpayers. Aren't you glad that you're being saved? And then the ninth item is the general issue in Australia of politicians' actions being influenced by donors. Now, donors, give money because they don't want a communist government, so they give money to conservative causes, or vice versa. They do want a communist government. Some people genuinely think that communism would be a good thing. Well, as I started at the top of the show, I'm implacably opposed to communism, Marxism, socialism, anything that takes away your freedom unreasonably. So the politicians in Victoria and Australia are hugely influenced by trade unions, and trade unions' work is to get jobs. Now, the trade union leaders are doing very well, just like the Aboriginal industry in this country. The leadership is doing wonderful in handling the money. I'm not saying the people, in the building industry, I'm particularly thinking of the CFMEU and the trade union influence on building, and then the money that's being spent by the Victorian government on infrastructure, suburban rail loop on a railway going nowhere in a state that is broke. And you start to go, what's the hidden agenda? Who is earning money from this? Another example, of course, is the Australian government attitude, the supportive attitude to whatever big pharmaceutical companies want. Okay? The influence of Big Pharma on our politicians in the West, and certainly in Australia, is immense. So where that leads to is, when you turn your awareness to all these hidden agendas, it helps you do your own thinking. So what is actually going on? And I remind you of one of my favorite Chinese sayings. I'm told it originated in China. Uncertainty can be uncomfortable, or to be uncertain can be uncomfortable. However, to be certain is ridiculous. And I'm raising all the complexity of these issues so that you let go of your need to be certain, and you live your life on a day-to-day basis, and you go, I wonder what the agenda is behind that. You might say, I wonder what the agenda is behind the Charles Kovess show. You might say, I wonder what the agenda is behind the silence of the Catholic Church on the takeover of Australia by Islam. Interesting question. Well, what's the hidden agenda? What's the agreements that are done? And your interest in taking an interest will help you live a better life on your terms. So that's it for today's show. I hope it makes a beneficial difference to your life. A life that I believe is meant to be all that you are capable of making it. If you're new to the show, check the links on the show notes to the foundational principles of this show and background about me, and also to the links to our website, kovess.com and charleskovess.com, where I can help your organisation or you one-on-one basis of senior executive coaching, or helping your teams perform better and live life and run businesses in a way that become enjoyable, fun, nourishing, nurturing, and unleashing passion to achieve great results in life and in business. Again, thanks for watching or listening. Have a wonderful week. Embrace the challenges, embrace your problems, because the quality of your problems is demonstration of the quality of your capability, because you attract the problems that are a reflection of your commitment to your ongoing learning and development. See you next week. Bye.